And now we come towards modulation. As I have already explained, what is modulation? And now it is the need of modulation in communication system. Well, first is about the modulation. It is the superimposition of electrical signal, that is the sound signals in the form of electrical signals, superimposed on the carrier frequency or the radio waves. And the need of modulation, that is for the communication. Suppose we have to send a message to about 20,000 kilometers away from the main point. So at the receiver, it is between receiver and transmitter, suppose the distance is very large. And for this communication, we selected, suppose, the audio wave or the audio frequency. Its amplitude is, that is, its velocity is only 332 meters per second. So what happens is that if it is directly communicated in air, its amplitude will vanish and the loudness will not be there, or the propagation will stop. So what we do is, if you wanted to send audio signal to large distances, first of all, the audio signal is passed into microphone, converted into electrical signals. Simultaneously, the Hertz oscillator is used for providing the radio waves or the carrier waves. Then, in the same instant, the electrical signals will superimpose the radio signals, and now the resultant wave is generated, which is known as modulated wave, and this will be transmitted to long distances, and its speed is about 300 million meters per second, or 3 into 10 to the power 8 meters per second. Now it will be received at the antenna and demodulation will start. So what is the need of modulation? Sending a weak signal or a low amplitude signal, or the signal whose speed is very less. That signal is to be transmitted to long of distance. That is what the main use of modulation. The technique of modulation I have already explained. And now we come to the main concept, that is high frequency carrier wave. When we say high frequency carrier wave, we are referring to the frequency order of nearly 10 to the power 13 hertz. It is used to carry audio signals, as I have just now explained. That is a message to large distances. Modulation is the process by which the amplitude, the frequency, or the phase angle of the high frequency carrier wave is varied in accordance with the instantaneous value of the low frequency audio signal called the modulating signal. Now, what is the need of modulation in communication system? The audio signals have a bandwidth of 20 kilohertz, that is 20,000 hertz. Such low frequency signals cannot be transmitted directly to long distances because of the following reasons. The reasons I have already explained, but now here we will elaborate those reasons. So practically, antenna length we have to check out. To transmit a signal effectively, the height of antenna should be comparable to the wavelength of signal, at least lambda over 4 in length. Lambda is the wavelength of the signal transmitted, so that the antenna properly senses the time variation of the signal. So to transmit a signal of frequency 20,000 hertz, we need antenna height. So antenna height is lambda by 4. So lambda is the wavelength. We can convert it to frequency. So the velocity is divided by frequency, and that is the height of the that is antenna. So we by computing these values, we will find that the length of the antenna is nearly about 15,000 meters. That is not possible. That is 15 kilometers. Antenna length. So not possible. We have to create a tower whose height will be nearly 15 kilometers, and that is not possible. So what we can do, that is, antenna of such a height cannot be constructed. On the other hand, if carrier wave of 1 megahertz, 1 megahertz means 10 to the power 6 hertz is used, then required antenna height comes down to just 300 meters. That can be practical. So we can construct an antenna height of nearly 300 meters. that is less than half a kilometer. Effective power radiated by antenna. When we say power radiated, we are referring to intensity. That is energy per unit area per unit time. So effective power radiated by antenna, that is for the linear antenna of length L, it is seen that power radiated is directly or power radiated is inversely proportional to square of the wavelength. Thus, for the same antenna length, the power radiated by the short wavelength or high frequency signals would be large. If the audio signal of longer wavelength are directly radiated into space, they die out, as I have explained earlier, because the waves damp. They die out after covering some distance due to their low power. So amplitude die off means that is loudness disappears because loudness is directly proportional to amplitude square. Now another thing, mixing up of signals from the different transmitters. So many transmitters are operating simultaneously on the globe. So there is mixing up of the signals. So we have to just make arrangements. When audio signal of the same frequency range are transmitted by many transmitters simultaneously, their signals get mixed up and it is not possible to separate them. This problem is overcome by using communication at high frequencies and allotting a band of frequencies to each signal for its transmission. So every signal has got a band, and in that band limit we can transmit a signal, because simultaneously many transmitters can send audio signals. Therefore, there is a need for translating the original low frequency message or information signal into high frequency wave before transmission, such that the transmitted signal continues to possess the information contained in the original signal. Now we come towards carrier wave, and we have to mention two types of carrier waves generally used. A carrier wave is an alternative name to the radio wave, but we have to take into consideration that carrier wave which is useful in communication. However, it is electromagnetic in nature. So we proceed like this. An alternating current, that is sinusoidal current, or that is varying current. An alternating current of frequency at least twice that of highest frequency component in the information signal is used to provide a carrier wave. Since this high frequency signal is the signal which is actually transmitted and carries the information, so it is known as a carrier wave. So the purpose of the carrier wave is to carry the signal, and we have to adjust the technicality, or we have to adjust the nature of the signal. Now, as shown in the figure, the following two types of carrier waves are commonly used, like continuous sinusoidal waves, where the current does not break. Other is the pulse-shaped signal. We normally prefer the pulse-shaped signals because it is of short duration, number one, and number two, that is the pulse continues to move or flow. So two signals are indicated. Number one is time period is indicated in the above signal, and pulse duration is indicated in the lower signals. So we prefer more the pulse amplification, or it is pulse amplitude, because the signals, they are communicated very fast.